Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Today's video, we're going back and we're doing some more cut content. Today we're going to be covering Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. GTA San Andreas is one of the most iconic GTAs of the entire series, with its large map, so many things to do, and really just being very, very impactful for gaming as a whole and what a video game could do. I feel like every GTA brought something new and exciting to the table, and GTA San Andreas is no exception to that. And I figured with a lot of the hype around GTA 6, now would be a great time for me to cover it. So without further ado, let's get into the cut content of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. There was originally meant to be a skateboard that CJ could ride on as well as use as a weapon. Files related to it being a mode of transportation as well as a weapon that you could equip can be found in the game. However, this was most likely cut because having something smoothly transition between being something you can ride on as well as them being able to equip it as a weapon, it was a little too complicated for the type of code they were using at the time. It was way too clunky and it just didn't feel good to use, so they ended up cutting it. Alongside this, it appears that there were also meant to be skateboarder pedestrians that you would see around San Andreas. Sadly, there are no animations left in the game of what it would have looked like, whether as a weapon or as a vehicle, but there have been plenty of mods that have showcased what it probably was like. There's quite a lot of unused weapons that can be found within the game's files. A large chunk of these are assets that were kept in from GTA Vice City. This list includes screwdriver, hammer, cleaver, machete, buddy shot, Tech 9, Ingrams, laser rifle, M60, and a minigun. There was also an unused landmine texture. Now we're going to get into some of the unused interiors that can be found within the game's files. The San Fierro Police Department cannot be entered. However, it has a fully done interior as well as NPCs specific to that area. NPCs walking around the police station in specific uniforms for that area of the map. But, once again, the building can't be entered in the vanilla game, which is really odd. And to make things even more odd, the police that can be found standing outside of the building and just in the area in general are Los Santos police officers rather than San Fierro police officers. And that's just kind of odd. One of the smaller details that was found in the code that may explain this choice of not including it in the game is that it was possibly meant for multiplayer. One of the doors is tagged with MP, and the doors themselves do match up, which proves that this was the same interior. They didn't just label it, as this for something else. The doors match up, so it's kind of confusing, but that MP tag is found on other things that were meant for a multiplayer mode, so it's assumed that it was going to be used for that multiplayer mode in some way. In Las Venturas, we have two very interesting cut interiors. We first have the bike school. This early version of the bike school resembled a more traditional driving school and was quite a bit larger than the one we ended up getting. It can't be accessed normally, you need to use some sort of cheats to get in there, and there's no way to get out if you were to glitch yourself in there. There was also meant to be an ammunition that was 2 stories tall. The second story would have been a shooting range, and there was also a cut version of a vending machine within this building. Now we'll talk about some unused vehicles. There's an early version of the Blood Ring Banger vehicle, which resembles a vehicle from GTA Vice City. This is simply a leftover. It was used as a placeholder earlier on because the games use the same engine. So all of the interiors and details that come with this early Vice City version of the car technically exist within San Andreas, but eventually it was replaced. There's a truck labeled as the FBI truck, however, it appears that it actually would have been used by the police department. All references to it, whether it is cut radio calls or entries in a strategy guide, it refers to it more as an enforcement vehicle rather than an FBI-related vehicle. Even the paint on the side refers to a police department rather than it being the FBI, and one version even had a mounted gun and a sign that said SWAT members only. So despite being called the FBI truck, it actually would have been an enforcement vehicle for the police once you got your wanted level up to 5 stars. Similarly, there is an FBI car that was cut, however it's only a model, and it resembles just another police vehicle except for that the siren is in the back and there are some lights in different locations on it. So not really sure what that one was meant to be. Maybe the FBI were supposed to be called in once you reached a certain wanted level, and that would be how the SWAT teams show up and things like that. An early version of the Rancher looks pretty much the same, except the windows are very heavily tinted. It still exists within the game's files, and you can acquire it using cheat codes. This may just look like a weird pot, but it was actually meant to be a small RC car with a camera. This was related to a cut casino heist that would have been featured within the game. Some oddities that would end up being fixed within the game include the dumbbells present in the gym. Originally, they would show up as the wrong color, appearing golden for some reason. And interestingly enough, this was only fixed in the Android ports of the game. There is a male blonde lifeguard who is meant to spawn at the beaches, however, he doesn't. But he still spawns within the game. The only thing is, he spawns at the martial arts club for some reason, still talking and acting as if he's a lifeguard at a beach. The pimp in San-Andreas is completely silent due to a one-letter mistake within his code. Similarly, there's a security guard that has the exact same problem. And finally, we'll talk about one of the most well-known pieces of cut content from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and one of the most controversial pieces of cut content from any video game ever. And that would be the hot coffee minigame. In the dating sequences within the game, you can choose to either leave your girlfriend at her home or you can come inside to make coffee, which is followed by a fade to black as well as sounds of intense coffee making. However, originally, the developers wanted it to be a minigame where you could decide what happens and that kind of thing. Animations were made, all sorts of things were done, however, it was ultimately cut due to the ESRB rating system. However, instead of fully scrapping it and pulling it from the game, it was simply turned off by a flagging system within the code. Because it was effectively cut content, the ESRB rating board, or whatever you want to call it, wasn't made aware of its existence within the files, thus giving it its M rating that it has today. However, when modders got their hands on the game, they became curious and began to stumble upon the sound files as well as these animations. Eventually, they found the sort of switch that you need to flick to have this hot coffee mini game occur. And this led to one of the most popular mods in gaming, which was the hot coffee mod, which simply enabled that line of code. And this caused outrage. I mean, there's so many news stories that you can find from back then talking about how horrendous this is and how evil it is, that this is in a video game, and also how perverted and awful these men are for making a mod that then reactivates it, which is so funny to me with how graphic some sex scenes are within games that are out now, as well as even later GTA games. The nudity that you see in those games is far worse than what you see in GTA San Andreas. I mean, it looks like two Minecraft characters together. Obviously that's exaggerating, but you know what I mean, is that the level of detail is not there. It's not to what we have today and some of the crazy things that we see today. So it's kind of a blast to the past in terms of what people's sensibilities were when it came to that kind of sexual content existing within a video game. And like I said, GTA always has its controversies. Every single GTA game has its controversies, has its thing that the public hated it for, and it's very, very interesting. So let me know if you want me to cover more cut content on the Grand Theft Auto series. I would absolutely love to. I'd also love to return to the game because I'm sure there's some things I missed. Let me know what you think. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you have a good morning or evening or whatever.